My wife got a court order for my safe deposit box. Sure, I'd hidden my inheritance there. It's all mine. My wife gloated. I just handed her the key. When she opened it, her own lawyer's hands started to tremble. He slammed it shut and hissed, "Don't touch anything." I'm sitting at my own kitchen table, but I feel like a prisoner at trial. The lawyer's leather briefcase clicks open with a sound that somehow feels final, like the cocking of a gun or the closing of a vault. My wife, Simone, sits across from me with her arms folded, her jaw set in that particular angle I've come to recognize over the past 6 months. It's the angle that says she's already won, already moved on, already spending money that doesn't exist. Her attorney, Gerald Fisk, is a man who wears his competence like cologne, expensive, obvious, slightly suffocating. He slides a document across the table with 2 fingers, the way you'd slide a tip to a particularly disappointing waiter. "Mr. Chun," he says, "this is a court order granting my client access to safe deposit box number 447 at First National Bank. We have reason to believe you've hidden marital assets, specifically your inheritance from your late mother, in an attempt to shield them from equitable distribution." I look at the document. Official, stamped, signed by Judge Marion Hartford, whom I've never met, but whose signature will change everything. Equitable distribution, I repeat slowly. The words taste like ash. Simone leans forward. "Don't play dumb, Marcus. We know you got at least $500,000 from your mom's estate. Probably more. And you think you can just what? Hide it in a box and pretend it doesn't exist." Her voice has that edge again. That edge that appeared about 8 months ago, right around the time she started spending Thursday evenings at yoga and coming home smelling like someone else's cologne. Right around the time her sister Vanessa started joining us for Sunday dinners. Shooting me looks like I was something she'd stepped in. "I'm not hiding anything," I say. "Then why won't you give me access to the box?" Her manicured fingernail, French tips, $70 every 2 weeks, my credit card, taps the table. Tap, tap, tap. "Because what's in that box is mine." Gerald clears his throat. "Actually, Mr. Chun, in the state of California, any assets acquired during the marriage are considered community property unless—" My mother died 3 months ago. My voice comes out harder than I intended. 3 months. And Simone filed for divorce 6 months ago. So unless she's got a time machine hidden next to her hot yoga mat, I'm pretty sure the inheritance came after we were legally separated. Simone's eyes flash. "We were still married, Marcus. Still married. You moved out. Temporarily. You served me papers." That doesn't mean. It means exactly what it means. I meet her eyes, and for just a moment, I see something flicker there. Uncertainty? Guilt? It's gone before I can name it. My mother left me something, Simone. Not us. Me. And what's in that safe deposit box is mine. Gerald adjusts his glasses. Be that as it may, the court has granted access. We can do this cooperatively, or we can do it with a sheriff's escort. Your choice. The funny thing about dignity is that it requires an audience. Right now, I'm the only audience that matters, and I'm tired. So tired. I reach into my pocket and pull out the key. It's small, brass, worn smooth on the edges from my mother's fingers, then mine. I've held this key every day since the funeral, sometimes just turning it over in my palm like a worry stone. Sometimes pressing it hard enough to leave an indent in my skin. Fine, I say. Simone straightens. Victory already sparking in her eyes. The bank opens at 9, I continue. We'll meet there. Tomorrow morning. Why not right now? Simone demands. Because it's 7:47 p.m., Simone. Even with a court order, we can't make the bank open after hours. Gerald nods. Tomorrow morning is acceptable. 9 a.m. First National on 7th Street. I slide the key across the table. Simone reaches for it like it's the golden ticket to Wonka's factory. Her fingers close around it, and she actually smiles. Not at me, through me. Like I'm already just a memory, an obstacle successfully cleared. You're going to regret holding out on me, Marcus, she says softly. You could have just been honest from the start. And that's when something inside me, something that's been bending and bending for months, finally straightens. You're right, I say. I should have been honest from the start. She blinks. Gerald's eyebrows rise slightly. See you tomorrow, I add. 9 a.m. Don't be late. After they leave, After Simone's car pulls out of the driveway, she insisted we couldn't afford to pave. After Gerald's Mercedes purrs away into the suburban darkness, I sit alone in the kitchen. The house is silent. It's been silent for 6 months, but this is a different kind of silence. This is the silence before thunder, the held breath before the plunge. I pull out my phone and look at the photos I've kept in a locked folder. Documents, records, timestamps. I look at them for a long time. These breadcrumbs of truth I've been collecting like seeds for a harvest I never wanted to plant. Then I open my recent calls and dial. Marcus. My brother's voice is cautious. He's been cautious with me ever since Simone left, like I might shatter if he speaks too loudly. Daniel, I say, I need you to be at First National Bank tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Can you make it? A pause. What's happening? The end, I tell him. The end is happening. My mother died on a Tuesday. It was unexpected, a stroke, sudden and complete. One moment she was arguing with the gardener about the azaleas, and the next she was on the floor of her greenhouse, surrounded by the orchids she'd tended for 40 years. I got the call at work. Daniel's voice, shaking. Mark, you need to come. It's Mom. By the time I arrived at the hospital, she was gone. Just gone. 72 years of life, of late-night conversations and terrible puns and hands that always smelled like soil and roses, reduced to a sheet-covered form in a too-cold room. Simone didn't come to the hospital. She was busy. She had a work thing. She'd come by later. Later turned out to be the funeral, where she wore black Prada and appropriate tears and hugged me in front of the congregation with all the warmth of a mannequin being posed for a window display. I'm so sorry, baby, she whispered into my shoulder, loud enough for the first 3 pews to hear. Your mom was an amazing woman. My mother couldn't stand Simone. She never said it outright. My mother was too gracious for that. But I knew. I knew from the way she'd pause before asking how Simone was. I knew from the careful way she'd phrase questions about our marriage, like she was defusing a bomb. I knew from the look she gave me at our wedding, standing in the receiving line in her navy dress and pearl earrings, squeezing my hand and saying, I hope she makes you happy, sweetheart. I really do. Hope. Not certainty. Hope. After the funeral, there was the reading of the will. My mother's attorney, Bernard Chun, no relation, just one of those coincidences that makes the world feel smaller, gathered us in his office. Me, Daniel, and to my surprise, Simone. She insisted on being here. I'd explained to Bernard when she showed up. Something about supporting me through my grief. What Simone really wanted was to know if there was money. There was. My mother had been a botanist, a researcher, and for the last 30 years of her life, a patent holder. 3 patents, actually, for hybridization techniques in commercial orchid cultivation. Profitable patents. Very profitable. Bernard adjusted his reading glasses. To my beloved sons, Marcus and Daniel Chun, I leave my entire estate in equal measure with the following specifications. The estate was worth $2.3 million. Simone's intake of breath was audible. My mother had left half to Daniel outright. Half to me, with conditions. Marcus's portion, Bernard read, is to be placed in a trust with the following stipulations. The full amount will be released to him upon either his 45th birthday or the finalization of his divorce from Simone Laurentian, whichever comes first. Until that time, the funds will remain in trust, managed by Bernard Chun of Chun and Associates, generating interest at the standard fiduciary rate. In the event that Marcus and Simone remain married past his 45th birthday, the funds will be released to him at that time. If Marcus should predecease his 45th birthday while still married, the funds will be distributed to Daniel Chun in full. Silence. Then Simone, what? Bernard looked up over his glasses. It's quite clear, Mrs. Chun. The inheritance is contingent on. I heard what you said. Her voice was sharp. I want to know why. I don't speculate on my clients' motivations, Bernard said evenly. I simply execute their wishes. Simone turned to me. Did you know about this? No. Your mother basically said she wanted you to divorce me. My mother left me an inheritance with conditions. That's her right. Conditions that, she stopped. Realization dawning. When's your 45th birthday? 8 years from now, I said quietly. Her jaw tightened. This is insane. We can contest this. Bernard shook his head. I assure you, Mrs. Chun, this will is ironclad. I drafted it myself under Mrs. Chin's explicit instructions. She was of sound mind, and the conditions she set are well within legal bounds. But it's punitive. It's her money, I interrupted, and she can do with it what she wants. That was 3 months ago. 2 weeks later, Simone's behavior changed. The late nights became more frequent. The work trips multiplied. The distance between us, already a canyon, became a chasm. And then came the papers. She filed for divorce on a Friday. Had me served at my office, in front of my colleagues, by a man who looked apologetic as he handed me the envelope. I signed them that night. Not out of anger. Not even out of hurt. I signed them because they were true. Our marriage had been dead for longer than I'd wanted to admit, embalmed by routine and mutual convenience, and the shared mortgage on a house neither of us particularly liked. The divorce should have been simple. No kids. Clear asset division. A clean break. Except Simone couldn't let go of the money. My mother's money. The money that was mine the moment those papers were filed. The moment our marriage was legally dead, even if the paperwork took time to finalize. But Simone hired Gerald Fisk, who specialized in creative asset recovery. And suddenly, everything became complicated. Suddenly, there were depositions about my mother's estate, questions about when exactly the funds had transferred, arguments about whether separation versus divorce meant the timing was ambiguous. Your inheritance occurred during the marriage, Gerald argued in mediation. Therefore, it's subject to community property law. My inheritance occurred after separation, I countered. After she filed. After she ended this. The courts may see it differently. And apparently, they did. Hence the court order. Hence tomorrow morning. Hence this key that Simone now clutches like it's the answer to every question she's ever had. What Simone doesn't know, what Gerald doesn't know, what no one except Bernard and I know, is that my mother's inheritance isn't in that safe deposit box. The inheritance is in a trust. A locked, legally binding trust that can't be touched, can't be seized, can't be argued over until the conditions are met. And those conditions, divorce finalization, are still 6 weeks away. 6 weeks until the court stamps the papers, makes it official, releases the funds. The safe deposit box at First National contains something else entirely. Something Simone should have thought about before she decided that late Thursday nights and other men's cologne were more important than the truth. Something that's going to make Gerald Fisk earn every penny of his retainer. I sit in my kitchen, in the darkness, and I think about my mother's hands in the soil. I think about her quiet voice when she'd told me, years ago, before she got sick, "Marcus, sweetheart, promise me something. Promise me you'll never let anyone make you smaller than you are. Not for comfort. Not for peace. Never. I promise, Mom. Tomorrow, I'm going to keep that promise." I don't sleep. Instead, I lie in bed. Our bed, though it hasn't felt like ours for a long time, and watch the ceiling fan rotate. Around and around. Hypnotic. Endless. At 3 a.m., I give up and go downstairs. I make coffee. Not the expensive beans Simone insists on, the ones from that pretentious roaster in Silver Lake that charges $18 for 8 ounces. Just regular coffee. Folgers. The kind my mother drank every morning at 5 a.m. before heading to her greenhouse. It tastes like clarity. I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop and pull up the folder. The one I've been building for 8 months. Ever since I started noticing things. The credit card statement from last January. Dinner for 2 at Osteria Mazza. I was in San Francisco that night for a conference. Simone was supposedly home with a migraine. The strange charges on our joint account. A hotel in Santa Monica. We live 30 minutes from Santa Monica. Why would she need a hotel? The text messages I found on her phone when she left it on the bathroom counter. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Same place. From a contact labeled Yoga Jenny. I'd looked up Yoga Jenny. There was no Yoga Jenny at her studio. There was no Yoga Jenny anywhere in her contacts except that thread. But there was a Jeremy Yates. Investment broker. Divorced. 43. Handsome in that way that screams, I peak in my 40s. His Instagram was public. Photos of him at expensive restaurants, on boats, at the kinds of clubs where bottle service costs more than my monthly grocery budget. And there, buried in his tagged photos from 7 months ago, Simone. At a fundraiser gala. Smiling. His arm around her waist. Posted 3 months before she filed for divorce. I'd hired a private investigator. Not out of anger. Or not just out of anger. Out of necessity, because I knew that when the divorce came, Simone would fight dirty. She'd been a marketing executive long enough to understand leverage, understand narrative, understand how to make herself the victim and me the villain. I needed truth as armor. The investigator's name was Sarah Gutierrez, mid-50s, former LAPD. She'd come recommended by my divorce attorney before I'd fired him for being too soft. You want photos? She'd asked at our first meeting. Video? Financial records? I want documentation, I'd said. Whatever will stand up in court. She'd delivered. Photos of Simone and Jeremy having lunch. Photos of them entering his condo building. Photos of them leaving together, her hair messier than when she went in, her lipstick smudged. Financial records showing that Jeremy had been paying for a storage unit in Simone's name. Contents: furniture. Expensive furniture. The kind you buy when you're furnishing a new place. A place you're planning to move into once the divorce is final and you get your payout. Phone records showing hundreds of texts. Thousands. A paper trail of intimacy that started 9 months ago. 9 months ago. 3 months before she filed. 6 months before she had any legal right to end our marriage. I spent $15,000 on that investigation. $15,000 I didn't really have. Charged to a credit card I'd opened in my name only. Paid for with overtime and skipped lunches and the kind of fiscal paranoia that comes from knowing you're about to lose everything. But I had my evidence. And that evidence is in the safe deposit box. All of it. Printed, organized, indexed. Every photo. Every receipt. Every text message record. Every witness statement from the investigator. The complete financial analysis showing that Simone had been planning this divorce for months, strategically, deliberately, with malicious forethought. Also in that box, records from our joint account showing that Simone had been siphoning money. Small amounts. 50 here, 100 there. Transferred to a personal account I didn't know she had. Over the course of a year, she'd moved $23,000. $23,000. My money. Our money. Gone. And the piece de resistance. A lease agreement for a luxury apartment in Marina del Rey. 2-bedroom. Ocean view. $3,400 a month. Co-signed by Jeremy Yates and Simone Laurentien. Dated 4 months before she filed for divorce. She'd been planning her exit. Planning her new life. Planning to take everything she could from me and walk into a sunset I was paying for. The safe deposit box is full of receipts. Receipts for betrayal. Receipts for lies. Receipts for every time she kissed me goodnight and then texted him. Receipts for every time she said, "I love you," while already designing her new living room in another man's space. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzes. "Daniel, just landed. I'll meet you at the bank. You sure about this?" Me? Never been more sure of anything in my life. "Daniel, okay. I'm here if you need me." Daniel always was the steady one. The one who married his high school sweetheart and bought a modest house in Sacramento and had 3 kids who called him Papa and meant it. He'd wanted to split his half of Mom's inheritance with me. Insisted that the trust conditions were unfair. "Mom was trying to protect you," he'd said. "But she didn't need to. You're stronger than she thought." "Maybe," I'd said. Or maybe she knew exactly how strong I'd need to be. At 7 a.m., I shower. I put on my best suit. The charcoal Tom Ford that I bought for our wedding and haven't worn since. I shave carefully. I look at myself in the mirror, this man with my face who looks older than he should, and I barely recognize him. But I see my mother's eyes looking back. Her determination. Her quiet, inexorable strength. "Here we go, Mom," I say to the mirror. "Here we go." The bank is exactly the kind of place where secrets go to sleep. Marble floors. High ceilings. That particular hush that only exists in places where money changes hands silently. There's a security guard by the door, older man, kind eyes, and he nods to me as I enter. I'm early. 8:47 a.m. I sit on one of the leather benches near the safe deposit entrance, and I wait. Simone arrives at 8:53 a.m., and she's not alone. There's Gerald, of course. Briefcase. Power tie. That look of barely contained avarice that all good lawyers master. But there's also Vanessa, Simone's sister. And to my genuine surprise, Jeremy Yates. Jeremy, in the flesh. Looking exactly like his Instagram photos. Tall, silver-templed, wearing confidence like a cologne. They spot me and approach like a delegation arriving for treaty negotiations. Marcus, Simone says. Cool. Collected. The key to my safe deposit box dangles from her fingers on its little brass ring. Let's get this over with. Who's your friend? I ask, looking at Jeremy. This is Jeremy. He's here for moral support. Moral support. I let the words hang. How thoughtful. Jeremy extends his hand. Jeremy Yates. I've heard a lot about you. I don't take his hand. I'm sure you have. The awkward moment stretches. Gerald clears his throat. Shall we proceed? I believe we're all here. Almost, I say. The door opens. Daniel walks in, and he's not alone either. My brother is flanked by Bernard Chun, my mother's attorney, and another man I don't recognize. Late 30s. Expensive suit. He carries himself with the particular gravity of someone who's used to being the most important person in the room. Marcus, Daniel says, embracing me. You good? I'm perfect. Bernard nods to me, then to Simone. Mrs. Chun. Mr. Fisk. Bernard, Gerald says slowly. This is unexpected. Is it? Bernard adjusts his glasses. I'm here representing the Chun estate's interests. Given that questions have been raised about Mr. Marcus Chun's inheritance, I thought it prudent to attend. The man with Bernard steps forward. David Reyes, he says. I'm representing Mr. Chun in his divorce proceedings. Simone blinks. You fired your attorney. I hired a better one. I say. David Reyes is not a better attorney. He's the best. He's the man who handled the Sanderson divorce. Front page of the LA Times, $40 million. Career destruction for the cheating spouse. He's expensive. Absurdly expensive. I've paid for him with my half of Daniel's inheritance. A loan from my brother, to be repaid once my mother's trust releases. Daniel hadn't hesitated. Consider it an investment in justice, he'd said. Simone's composure cracked slightly. What is this, Marcus? Some kind of ambush. This. I gesture around. This is transparency. You wanted to see what's in my safe deposit box. So let's all see it together. Gerald's jaw tightens. The court order grants access to my client and her attorney. There's no provision for. There's no prohibition against it either, David says smoothly. My client is voluntarily allowing additional witnesses to be present during the opening of his private safe deposit box. Unless you'd prefer to argue that your client is afraid of transparency. Checkmate. Gerald knows it. Simone knows it. Fine, Simone snaps. Let's just do this. The bank manager, a woman named Patricia who's been nothing but professional through this entire nightmare, leads us to the vault. It's behind two doors, down a corridor, in a room that smells like old metal and older secrets. Box 447. I visited this box exactly twice. Once, when I opened it the day after my mother's funeral. Once, when I filled it with everything Simone was about to see. Patricia inserts the bank's key. Simone inserts mine. The lock clicks. The door swings open. Patricia pulls out the long metal drawer and sets it on the table in the center of the room. I'll give you privacy, she says and leaves. We stand in a circle around the table. Me, Daniel, Bernard, David, Simone, Gerald, Vanessa, Jeremy. 8 people. 1 box. The truth inside. Simone reaches for the lid. Wait, Gerald says. She pauses. What? Let me. He steps forward. His hands are careful as he lifts the lid. I watch his face. This is the moment I've been waiting for. The moment when the mask of professional detachment shatters. Gerald looks inside the box. His face goes white. Jesus Christ, he whispers. Simone pushes forward. What? What is it? Don't. Gerald tries to close the lid, but she's already seen. Inside the safe deposit box, perfectly organized in clear sheet protectors, are photographs. Photo after photo after photo. Simone and Jeremy having lunch at Republic. Simone and Jeremy entering his building. Simone and Jeremy kissing in his car. Simone and Jeremy at IKEA, for God's sake, picking out furniture together. The timestamps are visible on each photo. Dates, times, GPS coordinates. There are bank statements, transfer records, the lease agreement with both their signatures. There are printed text messages, hundreds of pages of them, complete with phone numbers, timestamps, metadata. There's an investigator's report. Professional, thorough, devastating. And on top of everything, in a sealed envelope with "Read First" written in my handwriting, a notarized affidavit from Sarah Gutierrez, licensed private investigator, attesting to the authenticity of all materials, the dates of collection, and the chain of custody for every piece of evidence. Simone's hands start to shake. Marcus, she breathes. What is this? The truth, I say quietly. That's what's in my safe deposit box. The truth. Gerald slams the lid shut. Hard. The bang echoes in the small room. Don't touch anything, he hisses to Simone. Don't touch anything. Don't say anything. We're leaving. Now. But the money, Vanessa starts. There is no money. Gerald's professional calm is gone. There's no inheritance in this box. There's evidence. Do you understand? Evidence of adultery. Evidence of asset dissipation. Evidence that will destroy any claim to community property. He turns to me. His face is a thundercloud. You son of a bitch. David Reyes steps forward. I'll ask you to be civil, Mr. Fisk. My client has done nothing but comply with a court order to open his safe deposit box. If you're unhappy with the contents, perhaps you should have considered what your client might be hiding before demanding access to someone else's private property. This is entrapment. This is documentation, David corrects. Legal documentation obtained through lawful means. I'm sure you'll recognize the investigator's credentials, MS. Gutierrez has testified in Superior Court dozens of times. Her work is beyond reproach. Bernard speaks up for the first time. And for the record, Mr. Fisk, the inheritance you're so concerned about is not now and has never been in this safe deposit box. Mrs. Chin's estate is held in an irrevocable trust, the conditions of which are quite clear. The funds will be released to Marcus upon finalization of his divorce, which, given what we've just discovered, should proceed quite smoothly now. Simone is staring at me. Just staring. Her perfect makeup can't hide the way her face has crumpled, the way her foundation is creasing around her eyes. You investigated me, she says. You spied on me. I documented your choices, I correct. There's a difference. We were married. Yes, I say. We were. And you were sleeping with him. I point to Jeremy, who looks like he wishes he could dissolve into the floor. You were planning to leave me, furnishing an apartment with him, stealing money from our joint account, and then you tried to take my mother's inheritance. An inheritance she specifically protected from exactly this. Your mother was a controlling bitch. The room goes silent. Daniel takes a step forward, but I put a hand on his arm. My mother, I say, very quietly, was a botanist who spent 40 years cultivating beauty from dirt. She was brilliant. She was kind. And she loved me enough to protect me from someone who would take everything I had and call it love. Tears are running down Simone's face now. Real tears. Not the pretty, camera-ready tears from the funeral. These are ugly tears. Scared tears. You can't use this, she says to Gerald. Tell him he can't use this. Gerald's silence is answer enough. David opens his briefcase and pulls out a document. This is a revised settlement proposal. In light of the evidence contained in this safe deposit box, we're recommending the following. All marital assets will be divided 50-50, except, and I want to be very clear here, except for the $23,000 that Mrs. Chun transferred to her personal account without Mr. Chin's knowledge. That amount will be returned in full. Additionally, Mr. Chun will retain sole ownership of the marital home, as Mrs. Chun had already secured alternate housing, as evidenced by the lease agreement in Box 447. He slides the document across the table to Gerald. Mrs. Chun will pay her own legal fees. No spousal support will be requested or provided by either party. And, he pauses for emphasis, Mrs. Chun will sign a document acknowledging that she has no claim, now or ever, to any portion of the Chun estate inheritance. This is extortion, Simone whispers. This is reality, David says. You have two choices, Mrs. Chun. You can sign this agreement, and we can end this divorce quickly and quietly. Or you can refuse, and we'll proceed to trial, where every one of these photos, he taps the safe deposit box, will be entered into evidence. Every text message, every bank statement, every single piece. In California may be a no-fault divorce state, but adultery and asset dissipation still matter when it comes to property division and the court's view of credibility. He leans back. Your attorney can confirm, but I think you'll find that judges tend to look unfavorably on people who lie, cheat, and steal. Just a thought. Gerald picks up the document. His hands, I notice with satisfaction, are trembling. I need to consult with my client, he says stiffly. Of course, David says. You have 48 hours. After that, we file these documents with the court and request an expedited hearing. He smiles. It's not a kind smile. I look forward to your response. They leave. All of them. Simone practically running from the vault room. Vanessa hurrying after her. Gerald rigid with barely suppressed rage. Jeremy just looks relieved to be dismissed. When the door closes behind them, the silence is enormous. Patricia returns. Everything. All right, gentlemen? Everything's perfect, I say. After I relock the safe deposit box, my evidence, my truth, we walk out into the morning sunshine. It's a beautiful day. October in Los Angeles, when the heat finally breaks and the air smells like possibility. Daniel puts his hand on my shoulder. Jesus, Mark, you really did it. Did I? I feel oddly numb. Light. Like I've just set down a backpack full of stones I'd been carrying for years. You eviscerated her, Bernard says. There's admiration in his voice. Your mother would be proud. Would she? I think about my mother in her greenhouse, her hands in the soil, talking to her orchids like they were old friends. I think about the way she'd look at me when I was a kid and I'd failed at something. A test, a game, a relationship, and she'd say, failure is just information, Marcus. Information about what doesn't work. Now you know. Now you can try something different. This isn't failure. This is information. Information about who Simone really is. Information about what my marriage really was. Information about what I'm willing to tolerate and what I'm willing to fight for. Come on, Daniel says. Let's get breakfast. You've got to be starving. We end up at a diner in Silver Lake. The kind of place with red vinyl booths and laminated menus and coffee that comes in actual ceramic mugs. David begs off. Too many other clients. Too little time. But Bernard joins us. Over pancakes and bacon, Daniel asks the question I've been dreading. How do you feel? Honestly, I push syrup around my plate. I don't know. I thought I'd feel vindicated, powerful, something. And instead I just feel tired. Bernard sets down his coffee. Marcus, what you did today was necessary. But necessary doesn't always feel good. She looked so. I search for the word. Small. When Gerald closed that box, when she realized what was happening, she looked small. She is small, Daniel says. She's a woman who cheated on you, lied to you, tried to steal from you, and then played the victim when she got caught. Small is accurate. But I loved her once. I say it quietly. I did. There was a time when she made me laugh, when we'd stay up late talking about everything and nothing, when I thought we were building something. You were building something, Bernard says. She was tearing it down and selling the pieces. The truth of that settles like sediment. Your mother's conditions, Bernard continues, weren't just about the money. They were about giving you time. Time to see clearly. Time to make choices from wisdom instead of habit. She knew. I say. Mom knew that Simone was, what? Wrong for me. A gold digger. I think she knew that Simone made you smaller, Bernard says. And your mother never wanted you to be small. We eat in silence for a while. The diner buzzes around us. Families, couples, people living their ordinary, extraordinary lives. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. You're a vindictive asshole. I hope you rot. Vanessa. Has to be. Then another text. This one from Simone's number. I loved you. I did love you. Why couldn't you just believe that? I stare at the message for a long time. Daniel leans over. What's that? Simone, I say, asking why I couldn't believe she loved me. Are you going to answer? I think about all the nights I came home to an empty house. All the times I asked her how yoga was, and she'd smile and lie. All the credit card statements and hotel receipts and perfume that wasn't hers. I think about the lease she signed with another man while we were still married. The furniture she bought for a life she was planning without me. The money she stole, dollar by dollar, like I wouldn't notice. Like I didn't matter enough to notice. I delete the text. No, I say. I'm not going to answer. Daniel grins. Good man. Simone doesn't sign the agreement in 48 hours. She signs it in 36. David calls me at 9 p.m. on Sunday night. She caved. Signed everything. Her attorney's filing the paperwork tomorrow morning. That's it. I ask. It's done. Well, there's still the waiting period. 6 months from filing to finalization. But yes, effectively, it's done. You're free. Free. The word doesn't feel the way I expected. It doesn't feel like victory or relief or joy. It feels like emptiness, the absence of weight, the space where something used to be. That night, I dream about my mother. We're in her greenhouse, and she's repotting an orchid. Her hands move with practiced precision, gentle but firm, supporting the roots as she settles it into fresh soil. You have to be careful with the roots, she says without looking up. That's where the strength is. Everything else, the flowers, the leaves, that's just show. But the roots? That's the truth of it. I miss you, I tell her. I know, sweetheart. She pats the soil down. But you don't need me anymore. You've got your own roots now. Do I? She looks up then, and her eyes are warm. Proud. You stood in that bank, and you didn't apologize for knowing your worth. That's roots, Marcus. That's strength. It doesn't feel strong. It feels lonely. Lonely and alone are different things, she says. You're lonely because you're transitioning. You're leaving behind a version of yourself that tolerated disrespect because it seemed easier than being alone. But you're not alone. You have your brother, your friends, yourself. That's not nothing. I thought I'd feel happier. She smiles. Happiness comes later. First comes healing. First comes the hard work of figuring out who you are when you're not being someone's husband, someone's ATM, someone's convenience story. Who am I? You're Marcus Chun, she says simply. My son. A good man. A man who keeps his promises. A man who deserves better than what she gave you. I wake up with tears on my face and morning light streaming through the window. The house is silent. Still silent. But it's a different silence now. Not the silence of abandonment. The silence of possibility. If you've ever been through a divorce, you know that the legal end doesn't mean the emotional end. Simone tries calling me. I don't answer. She tries texting. I block her number. She shows up at my house at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, drunk and crying, pounding on the door and screaming that I've ruined her life. I call the police. They arrive within 10 minutes. 2 officers, calm and professional, and they escort her away with a warning. The next morning, David files for a restraining order. She's spiraling, he tells me. Classic behavior when someone realizes they've lost control. Just stay away from her. Let the courts handle it, and for God's sake, don't engage. But the hardest part isn't Simone. It's the people. Vanessa posts on Facebook. Some people smile in your face and stab you in the back. Watch out for narcissists who play the victim when they're really the villain. The comments are split. Half defend me. He had every right to protect himself, and half vilify me. Spying on your wife is abuse. I delete Facebook. My coworker Rachel corners me in the break room. I heard about the divorce. Are you okay? I'm fine. Simone told Jenna that you had her followed, that you built some kind of revenge file. I documented her affair. I say carefully, after I had reason to believe she was cheating. That's not revenge. That's due diligence. Rachel nods slowly. I get it. I do. It's just intense, you know. Divorce is intense. She backs off after that, but I can see the calculation in her eyes. The reassessment. Am I Marcus, the nice guy from accounting? Or am I Marcus, the guy who hired a PI and trapped his wife in a bank vault? Both, I suppose. Funny how people are comfortable with you being a victim, but uncomfortable when you stop being one. 3 months after the divorce is finalized, 9 months after my mother died, Bernard calls me into his office. The trust conditions have been met, he says. Your divorce is final, which means the inheritance is yours. He slides a document across his desk. It's thick, official, the kind of document that changes lives. $1.15 million, he says, plus interest accrued over the past 9 months. Total available funds, $1,187,349. I stare at the number. $1.1 million. My mother's life work, distilled into a figure on a page. What are you going to do with it? Bernard asks. I don't hesitate. I'm going to live. If you've ever been given a second chance, you know it's terrifying. Because a second chance means the first chance is over. Definitively. Irrevocably. Gone. I sell the house. The one Simone and I bought together, argued over together, painted and furnished and pretended was a home. I sell it, and I don't look back. With the money from the sale and a chunk of my inheritance, I buy a condo in Pasadena. Smaller. Simpler. Mine. I decorate it myself. Not with Simone's white-on-white minimalist aesthetic. It's clean, Marcus, it's sophisticated, but with color. Books. Plants. I buy 3 orchids from a nursery in Ventura, and I set them on my balcony in the morning sun. I water them the way my mother taught me. I talk to them. They bloom. I reconnect with friends I'd lost during the marriage. College buddies Simone had thought were immature. Hiking groups she'd mocked as granola crunchers. People who liked me for me, not for who I was convenient to be. I take a photography class. I learn to cook Thai food. I read novels. I remember what it feels like to wake up without dread. 6 months after the divorce is final, Daniel and his family come to visit. The kids, 7, 9, and 11, run through my condo like tiny hurricanes, and I don't mind at all. "You look good," Daniel says. We're standing on the balcony, beers in hand, watching the sunset paint the San Gabriel Mountains gold. Lighter. I feel lighter. "Have you heard from her?" "Simone." I shake my head. "Not since the restraining order. Last I heard from mutual friends, she and Jeremy broke up. Something about him not being ready for commitment." I allow myself a small smile. "Shocking. And you? Seeing anyone?" "No." I take a sip of beer. "I'm not ready. I'm not sure what I'm ready for, but I know it's not that. Not yet." "That's smart," Daniel says. "Take your time. Figure out who you are without all that." "Who I am," I repeat. "That's the question, isn't it?" "You're my brother," Daniel says. "You're a good man. You're someone who stands up when it matters." "That's not nothing, Mark. That's everything." Later that night, after Daniel's family is asleep in the guest room, I sit on my balcony alone and I think about the safe deposit box. I still have it. Box 447 at First National. I've kept the evidence locked away, not because I need it anymore, but because it's proof. Proof that I'm not crazy. Proof that what I felt, the betrayal, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of my reality, was real. I think about the moment Gerald opened that box. The way his face went white. The way he slammed it shut and hissed, "Don't touch anything." Because he knew. He knew that what was in that box wasn't just evidence of an affair. It was evidence of who Simone really was when she thought no one was watching. And that's the thing about truth. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be. 1 year after the divorce is final, I visit my mother's grave. It's a clear November morning, the kind of day where the light is so sharp it hurts. I bring flowers, orchids, of course, and I sit on the grass beside her headstone. Grace Chen, beloved mother, sister, friend. She cultivated beauty. "Hi, Mom," I say. I kept my promise. The wind rustles through the cemetery trees, and I imagine it's her answer. "You were right about her." I continue. "About Simone. About the inheritance. About everything." I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe that love was enough, that if I just tried harder, was better, gave more, it would work. I traced the letters of her name carved into the stone. But you can't love someone into being honest. You can't love someone into respecting you. You can't water a dead plant and expect it to bloom. A crow lands nearby, cocks its head at me. "I'm okay now," I tell her. "I'm better than okay. I'm free. And I know that's what you wanted. Not the money, though that helps." I smile. "You wanted me to know my worth. To stop settling. To stop making myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger." I stand up, brush the grass from my jeans. "Thank you," I say, "for the inheritance, for the trust, for loving me enough to protect me even when I couldn't protect myself." The orchids I've left are deep purple, the color of twilight. They'll last a few days, then fade. But they're beautiful now. That's enough. Optional interlude. Gerald Fisk has been a family law attorney for 23 years. He's seen messy divorces, ugly divorces, divorces that ended with someone in jail or someone in the ground or someone liquidating everything out of spite. But he's never seen anything quite like the Chen case. He sits in his office late on a Friday night, long after his secretary has gone home, and he reviews the file one more time. It should have been simple. Wife files for divorce. Husband resists. Wife alleges hidden assets. Court grants access. They find the money, divide it. Everyone goes their separate ways, poorer and angrier, but legally untethered. Except Marcus Chen didn't hide money. He hid truth. Gerald replays the moment in his mind, opening that safe deposit box, expecting cash, bonds, maybe jewelry. Instead, photographs. Professional-grade surveillance photographs. His client, his beautiful, sympathetic, wronged client, kissing another man, entering another man's home, signing a lease for another man's apartment. Time-stamped, dated, geotagged, undeniable. And the text messages. Jesus Christ, the text messages. Hundreds of pages. Flirtatious. Explicit. Planning sessions for a life that didn't include her husband. All dated before she filed for divorce. All obtained legally. The investigators' credentials were impeccable. The chain of custody was airtight. Every piece of evidence would stand up in court. More than stand up, it would sing. Gerald had known in that moment, the moment his hands touched that box lid, that he'd lost. Not just the case, the moral high ground, the narrative, everything. Simone had come to him with such a compelling story. Husband gets inheritance. Husband hides it. Husband is financially abusive. Wife just wants what's fair. And it was bullshit. All of it. She'd been cheating for months. Stealing money. Planning her exit. And when her husband dared to protect himself, dared to document what she was doing, she tried to paint him as the villain. Gerald has made his career on finding angles, exploiting ambiguities, turning facts into favorable interpretations. But there's no angle on photographic evidence of adultery. There's no ambiguity about stolen money. There's no favorable interpretation of planning to leave your husband while simultaneously trying to take his inheritance. He'd advised Simone to sign the settlement. She'd resisted at first. He's just trying to scare us. Until he'd explained in small, simple words exactly what would happen if they went to trial. You'll lose, he'd said. And worse, you'll lose publicly. Every one of those photos will be entered into evidence. Every text message will be read in open court. Your reputation, your credibility, your dignity, all of it will be gone. Take the settlement. She'd signed. Gerald closes the file and slides it into his cabinet. Some cases you win. Some cases you lose. And some cases are just expensive lessons in choosing your clients more carefully. Marcus Chun was smarter than Gerald gave him credit for. Smarter than Simone gave him credit for. Smart enough to see what was coming and prepare for it. Smart enough to turn a safe deposit box into a trap. Gerald has to respect that, even as he hates it. He turns off the lights and leaves his office. On Monday, he'll take a new case. Someone else's messy divorce. Someone else's betrayal. But he'll never forget the look on Marcus Chin's face in that bank vault. Calm, resolute, almost sad. The look of a man who didn't want to be right, but knew he was. Vanessa Laurent sits in her living room with a glass of wine and a phone in her hand. She's debating. Marcus blocked her months ago, right after she texted him that he was a vindictive asshole, but she has his email. She could send him a message, an apology, an explanation. Would he even read it? Vanessa has spent the past year watching her sister fall apart. First came the breakup with Jeremy. Predictable. Jeremy had been in it for the affair, not the commitment. Once Simone was actually available, divorced, needy, demanding, he'd backed away like she was radioactive. Then came the job loss. Simone's firm had restructured. Funny how restructuring always meant getting rid of the person currently embroiled in a scandalous divorce. Then came the money problems. Simone had been so sure she'd get half of Marcus's inheritance. She'd been spending like it was already hers. The apartment in Marina del Rey, the furniture, the new wardrobe, the dinners, the vacations. When the settlement came through with nothing, no inheritance, no spousal support, just half the marital assets minus the money she'd stolen, reality hit like a freight train. Simone had moved in with Vanessa temporarily. That was 8 months ago. Vanessa loves her sister. She does. But living with her has been eye-opening. Simone blames everyone but herself. Marcus was controlling. Marcus was cold. Marcus had set a trap. Marcus had ruined her life. Never. I cheated. Never. I lied. Never. I stole. Never. I planned to leave him and take everything. Just, he shouldn't have spied on me. And Vanessa is tired of it. She's tired of the victim narrative. Tired of the excuses. Tired of watching her sister refuse to take any responsibility for the nuclear bomb she'd planted in her own marriage. Because here's the thing Simone doesn't want to acknowledge. Marcus was a good husband. Not perfect. No one is. But he was kind, faithful, reliable. He worked hard. He came home. He didn't gamble or drink or hit or scream. He was just there, steady. Boring maybe, but boring isn't a crime. And what had Simone done? She'd found someone exciting. Someone who made her feel young and desired and special. Someone who didn't know about her credit card debt or her insecurities or the way she looked in the morning before makeup. And she'd blown up her entire life for him. Vanessa opens her laptop and starts typing. Marcus, you don't know me beyond being Simone's sister. And I'm sure after everything, you don't want to hear from anyone in our family. I understand that. But I need to say this, whether you read it or not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for taking Simone's side without question. I'm sorry for texting you that awful message. I'm sorry for standing in that bank and acting like you were the villain when really, you were just protecting yourself. I've watched my sister for the past year blame everyone but herself for what happened to your marriage. And I can't do it anymore. I can't sit here and pretend she was wrong when I know, we both know, what she did. She cheated on you. She lied to you. She tried to steal your mother's inheritance. And when you had the audacity to document what she was doing, she tried to paint you as abusive. That's not okay. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve any of it. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect a response. I just wanted you to know that at least one person in Simone's life sees what really happened. And I'm sorry. Vanessa. She reads it twice. 3 times. Then she hits send. Marcus reads the email 2 days later. He doesn't respond. But he doesn't delete it either. 18 months after the divorce is final, I go on a date. Her name is Lisa. She's a landscape architect. We meet at a coffee shop that she designed the outdoor patio for. Native plants, drought-resistant, beautiful in that subtle way that means someone really understood what they were doing. Your orchids, she says, after I mention them. Do you keep them inside or outside? Balcony. Morning sun. Smart. What kind? Phalaenopsis. She nods appreciatively. Beginner-friendly, but still beautiful. Good choice. We talk for 2 hours. About plants and design in Los Angeles and nothing important at all. It's easy. Comfortable. When she suggests getting dinner sometime, I say yes. On the drive home, I call Daniel. I went on a date, I tell him. Yeah. He sounds pleased. How was it? Nice. Really nice. We're having dinner next week. That's great, Mark. I'm happy for you. Thanks. A pause. Then, how do you feel? Nervous, I admit. Scared. Excited. All of it at once. That's normal. You're allowed to be scared. What if I can't trust anyone again? What if I'm just broken? You're not broken, Daniel says firmly. You're healing. There's a difference. Broken things can't grow. You're growing. Dinner with Lisa turns into a second date, then a third, then a relationship that builds slowly, carefully, with the kind of intentionality that comes from having been hurt before. She asks about my ex-wife once. We're 6 months in, sitting on my balcony watching the sunset. What happened, she asks. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But I'd like to know. So I tell her. Not everything. Not the ugliest parts. But the shape of it, the betrayal, the lies, the safe deposit box, the evidence, the divorce. Jesus, Lisa says when I'm done. That's intense. Yeah. And the inheritance. It was never about the money, I say. Not really. It was about my mom trying to protect me. About me learning to protect myself. Lisa is quiet for a moment. Then, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you regret it? The investigation? The trap? I consider this. Sometimes. Sometimes I wish I'd just let her go. Signed the papers. Divided everything. Moved on without the drama. But I would have spent the rest of my life wondering if I was crazy. If what I felt, the betrayal, the lies, was real or just paranoia. And she would have taken my mother's inheritance. Money my mother specifically protected. Money that was supposed to be mine. I look at Lisa. So no, I don't regret it. I regret that it was necessary. But I don't regret doing it. She nods. Good. You shouldn't. That's when I know I'm going to be okay. 2 years after the divorce, my therapist asks me about closure. Do you feel like you have it? Dr. Nina Patel leans back in her chair, notepad in lap. Closure from the marriage? I don't know what closure is supposed to feel like, I admit. Am I supposed to forgive her? Forget her? Stop caring. What do you want? I pause. I want to not think about her anymore. I want to wake up and have a day where she's not part of my internal narrative. Does she still occupy space in your thoughts? Less than before. But yeah, sometimes. What triggers it? Betrayal stories. When someone talks about their divorce. When I see a couple and wonder if they're really happy or just performing happiness. I rub my face. When I doubt myself. How do you doubt yourself? I wonder if I did the right thing. With the investigation. With the evidence. If maybe I should have just let her have the money. Let her win. Been the bigger person. Why would letting someone steal from you make you the bigger person? The question stops me. I don't know. I say finally. Because that's what we're supposed to do, right? Turn the other cheek. Be forgiving. Not be vindictive. Marcus. Dr. Patel leans forward. Protecting yourself isn't vindictive. Documenting someone's betrayal isn't revenge. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. You had evidence that your wife was cheating, stealing, and lying. You protected yourself legally. That's not villainy. That's sanity. Then why do I feel guilty? Because you were raised to believe that defending yourself makes you the bad guy. That standing up for yourself is selfish. That expecting basic honesty and respect is asking too much. She pauses. Do you believe that? No. Then why do you feel guilty? I don't have an answer. Dr. Patel smiles gently. Closure doesn't mean you forget what happened. It doesn't mean you stop having feelings about it. Closure means you integrate the experience into your story without letting it define you. You're not Marcus, the man whose wife betrayed him. You're Marcus. Period. The betrayal is part of your history, not your identity. How do I get there? You keep living. You keep building. You keep choosing yourself. She glances at her notes. You're doing the work. Give yourself credit for that. 2.5 years after the divorce, I run into Simone at a grocery store. Whole Foods on Colorado Boulevard. I'm in the produce section, debating between red peppers and yellow, when I hear her voice. Marcus. I turn. She looks different. Older maybe. Or maybe just tired. Her hair is shorter. She's wearing yoga pants and a faded sweatshirt. No makeup, no jewelry. A far cry from the polished executive I married. Simone. I say neutrally. Awkward silence. Then, how are you? I'm good. You. I'm. She shrugs. I'm getting by. More silence. We both start at the same time. Go ahead, I say. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For how things ended. For what I did. I study her face. She looks sincere. Or maybe just defeated. Okay, I say. Okay. I appreciate the apology. She blinks. That's it. What do you want me to say, Simone? I don't know. I thought, maybe we could talk? Get coffee or something. Why? Because we were married for 8 years. Because we meant something to each other once. Because She trails off. I miss you sometimes. And here's the thing. I believe her. I believe she misses me. Or at least, she misses the version of me that paid her bills and asked no questions and made her feel like the main character in her own life story. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm seeing someone, I tell her. It's serious. I'm happy. Something flickers across her face. Pain. Envy. Relief. I can't tell. That's good. I'm glad. I hope things work out for you, Simone. I really do. But I don't think coffee is a good idea. She nods slowly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I pick up the red peppers, decision made, and I walk away. She doesn't follow. When I get to my car, I sit for a moment with my hands on the steering wheel. I don't feel angry. I don't feel sad. I don't feel anything, really, except a distant kind of sympathy for the woman she's become. And maybe that's closure. Not fireworks. Not catharsis. Just indifference. I text Lisa. Just ran into my ex-wife at Whole Foods. I'm okay. See you tonight. Her response is immediate. Of course. I'm making that pasta you like. Red heart. I smile. And I drive home. 3 years after the divorce is final, I take Lisa to meet my mother. Not literally, of course. But I take her to the cemetery, to the grave with the orchids I've kept fresh every week for 3 years. Hi, Mom, I say. This is Lisa. Lisa kneels beside me on the grass. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Chun. I've heard a lot about you. We sit in silence for a while. It's a warm May morning, and the cemetery is green and alive with early summer. I'm happy, Mom, I say eventually. I know it took a while, longer than I wanted, but I got there. Lisa takes my hand. The inheritance you left me. I used some of it to start a business. Consulting for small biotech firms. Patent analysis, mostly. Using your work as a foundation. I smile. Turns out all those years of you explaining your research at dinner paid off. The wind rustles the trees. And I bought a house. A real house, with a yard. I'm planning a greenhouse out back. Something like yours, but smaller. Orchids, mostly. I glance at Lisa. Maybe some roses, too. Lisa squeezes my hand. I'm okay, Mom. Better than okay. And I know that's what you wanted. Not just the money, though that helped, but for me to know my worth. To stop settling. To stop making myself small. I stand up, brush off my jeans. Thank you, I say, for everything. For the trust. For the protection. For loving me enough to see what I couldn't see. As we walk back to the car, Lisa asks, "Do you come here often?" "Every Sunday." "That's nice. I think she'd be proud of you." "Yeah," I say. "I think she would be." For years after the divorce, I marry Lisa in her parents' backyard in Silver Lake. It's small, intimate, just family and close friends, 40 people under string lights and a canopy of sycamore trees. Daniel is my best man. He gives a speech that makes everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. "My brother," he says, raising his glass, "has been through hell. And he came out the other side not bitter, not broken, but better, stronger, more himself than I've ever seen him." He looks at Lisa, and I think a lot of that is because he found someone who sees him, really sees him, not for what he can provide, but for who he is. Lisa's eyes are wet. "To Marcus and Lisa," Daniel says, "may your marriage be everything his first one wasn't. Honest, joyful, and built on actual love. We drink. We dance. We celebrate not just a wedding, but a resurrection." At the end of the night, Lisa and I stand together on the patio, looking out at the fairy lights and the last few guests milling around with wine and cake. "Happy?" she asks. Deliriously. She leans her head on my shoulder. "Thank you for giving this a chance. I know it was scary. Terrifying, I admit. But worth it." "Think your mom would have liked me?" "My mom would have loved you." And I believe that. 5 years after the divorce, I closed the safe deposit box. Box 447 at First National Bank. The box that held the truth. The box that ended my marriage and freed my life. I haven't opened it since that day. The evidence has served its purpose. The divorce is final. The settlement is executed. There's no need to keep it anymore. But closing it feels significant. Like the final chapter of a story I've been living for too long. Patricia, the bank manager, is still here. She smiles when she sees me. "Mr. Chun, it's been a while. I'm closing out the box." She nods. "Okay, let me get the paperwork." I sign the forms. I watch as she unlocks the box one last time, removes the contents, still there, still perfectly organized, still devastating, and places them in a manila envelope. "What are you going to do with it?" she asks. "Shred it," I say. "All of it." She smiles. "Good for you." I take the envelope home. Lisa is at work. The house is quiet, and I sit in my office with a glass of whiskey and the accumulated evidence of my ex-wife's betrayal. I think about burning it. Dramatic, cathartic, very cinematic. But I settle for the shredder. Page by page, photo by photo. I feed the evidence into the machine and watch it become confetti. The text messages, the bank statements, the lease agreement, the investigator's report, all of it, into strips, into chaos, into meaninglessness. When I'm done, I take the bag of shredded paper and I dump it in the recycling bin outside. Then I go back inside, pour myself another whiskey, and I call Daniel. "It's done," I tell him. "The box. Closed. Contents destroyed. It's over. How do you feel?" "Light," I say. "I feel light." And I do. If you've ever been betrayed, really, truly betrayed by someone you loved, you know that revenge is tempting. You want them to hurt the way you hurt. You want them to feel small and powerless and humiliated. You want them to know what they did, to see themselves clearly, to suffer. But here's what I learned. Revenge isn't making someone hurt. Revenge is protecting yourself so completely that they can't hurt you anymore. Simone wanted to take my inheritance. She wanted to rewrite history, to paint herself as the victim and me as the villain. She wanted to walk away with money she didn't earn, respect she didn't deserve, and a story that absolved her of responsibility. I didn't destroy her. I just didn't let her destroy me. There's a difference. The safe deposit box wasn't a trap. It was a mirror. It showed her exactly what she'd done, exactly who she'd been, exactly how much she'd gambled on my silence and ignorance and willingness to be the scapegoat. She gambled wrong. And that's not my fault. Dr. Patel once told me, "You can't control how other people behave. You can only control how you respond." And Marcus? You responded with truth. That's power. Quiet power. Not the kind that screams or threatens or burns bridges. The kind that says, I know what you did. I have evidence. And I'm not going to let you rewrite history. That's the kind of power that lasts. If you've ever felt like you were going crazy because your reality didn't match what you were being told. If you've ever been gaslit by someone who swore they loved you while lying to your face. If you've ever been told you were paranoid, suspicious, controlling for noticing that things didn't add up. If you've ever been made to feel small for demanding honesty. If you've ever been betrayed and then blamed for the betrayal. Then you know what I know. Truth is not aggression. Evidence is not cruelty. Protecting yourself is not revenge. You are allowed to say no. No to lies. No to manipulation. No to being the villain in someone else's story just because you refuse to be their victim. You are allowed to document reality, to save receipts, to protect yourself legally and emotionally and financially. You are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you without apologizing for it. You are allowed to choose yourself. And if that makes you the bad guy in their story, let them tell it, because you'll know the truth. And sometimes that's enough. 6 years after the divorce, I finished building the greenhouse. It's small, just 12 by 15 feet, but it's perfect. Custom built, climate controlled, full of my mother's orchids and a few of my own hybrids. I spend Sunday mornings there, hands in soil, coaxing beauty from roots. Lisa finds me there one morning, coffee in hand. You look like her, she says. Your mom. When you're working. Yeah. Peaceful. Like nothing else matters but the plant in front of you. I smile. That's exactly how she looked. Lisa sits on the bench I built, watching me work. After a while, she says, do you ever think about her? Simone. Sometimes. With regret. No. With curiosity, maybe. I wonder how her life turned out. If she's happy. If she learned anything. Do you hope she is? Happy. I consider this. I hope she's at peace. I hope she figured out why she did what she did and grew from it. But whether she did or not, it's not my story anymore. That's very evolved of you. I've had 6 years to evolve. She laughs. True. I finished repotting the orchid I've been working on, a hybrid I've been developing for 2 years, white petals with deep purple centers, and I set it carefully on the shelf. What are you going to call it? Lisa asks. Grace, I say. After my mom. She'd like that. Yeah, she would. In a drawer in my office, there's a letter I wrote 3 years ago and never sent. It's addressed to Simone. I don't know why I kept it. Sentiment, maybe. Or evidence that I tried to be the bigger person, even if I never followed through. Sometimes I take it out and read it. Simone, I'm writing this because I need to say it, even if you never read it. I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. You lied to me, betrayed me, tried to steal from me, and then made me the villain when I protected myself. That's not okay. But I forgive you because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting you to die. And I'm done poisoning myself. I don't know why you did what you did. Maybe you were unhappy. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe Jeremy made you feel something I couldn't. Maybe you were scared or selfish or just human in the messiest possible way. I don't need to understand it. I just need to release it. So, I forgive you. I forgive you for the lies. I forgive you for the betrayal. I forgive you for trying to take my mother's inheritance. I forgive you for making me feel crazy when I was just seeing clearly. I forgive you because I want to move forward without dragging you with me. I hope you're okay. I hope you're happy. I hope you learned something from all this. And I hope you forgive yourself. Marcus, I never sent it because I realized I didn't write it for her. I wrote it for me. And once I'd written it, I didn't need to send it. The forgiveness was real whether she knew about it or not. 7 years after the divorce, I give a talk at a men's support group. It's not something I ever planned to do, but a friend suggested it, and the coordinator reached out, and I thought, why not? The group meets in a community center in Glendale. 25 men, all in various stages of divorce or separation or post-relationship devastation. I tell them my story, not all of it. The condensed version, the marriage, the betrayal, the investigation, the safe deposit box, the divorce, the healing. When I finish, a man in his 30s raises his hand. How did you know? He asks. How did you know to investigate? I didn't know, I say. I suspected, and I trusted my gut. But what if you were wrong? Then I would have had a very awkward conversation with a private investigator and wasted $15,000. But I would have known. That was worth it to me. Knowing. Another man. Do you regret it? The whole trap thing. I didn't trap her. I correct gently. I documented her choices. She trapped herself. But do you regret it? No, because without that documentation, she would have taken my mother's inheritance. She would have painted me as the bad guy. She would have rewritten our entire history, and I would have spent the rest of my life wondering if I was crazy. I pause. I don't regret protecting myself. I regret that I had to. A man in the back. How long did it take before you stopped thinking about her every day? 2 years, I say honestly. 2 years before I could go a full day without thinking about what happened. And even now, 7 years later, I still think about it sometimes. But it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just information. Part of my story. At the end of the session, several men come up to thank me. One man, tears in his eyes, says, "You gave me hope. Thank you." I drive home that night feeling something I haven't felt in years. Useful. Like maybe the worst thing that ever happened to me can be a map for someone else navigating their own darkness. Maybe that's the point. 8 years after the divorce. 8 years to the day, my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost don't answer. But something makes me. Hello. Marcus. It's Simone. Silence. My heart does something complicated in my chest. Not quite fear, not quite anger, just reaction. How did you get my number? I asked Vanessa. She said you wouldn't mind. Vanessa, still occasionally sending me messages, trying to maintain some kind of connection. I don't respond, but I don't block her either. What do you want, Simone? I'm getting married. I blink. Congratulations. Thank you. A pause. I wanted you to hear it from me, not through social media or mutual friends. Okay, I appreciate that. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, I'm sorry, Marcus. For everything. For what I did. For how I did it. For all of it. I was a terrible person back then. Back then. I've done a lot of therapy. A lot of work. I'm not that person anymore. Good, I say. And I mean it. Are you happy? She asks. Yes. Very. I'm glad. You deserved better than what I gave you. Yes, I say again. I did. She laughs. It's wet, like she's crying. You're not going to make this easy, are you? I'm not trying to make it hard. I'm just being honest. Yeah, you were always honest. We sit in silence for a moment. Two people who used to know each other, now strangers with a shared history. I should go, she says. Okay. Good luck, Simone. With the wedding. With everything. Thank you. And Marcus? Yeah. I really am sorry. I know, I say. Be happy. Okay. Just be happy. I'll try. She hangs up. I sit with my phone in my hand for a long time, looking at the ended call screen. Lisa finds me there 20 minutes later. You okay? Simone called. She's getting married. Lisa sits beside me. How do you feel? I feel nothing. Maybe a little sad for who we were, but nothing about who we are now. That's healthy. Is it? Marcus. She takes my hand. You've spent 8 years healing from what she did to you. You built a business. You built a home. You built a life. You married me. She squeezes. Her getting married doesn't change any of that. I know. Do you? I look at her. This woman who's seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. This woman who's never lied to me, never betrayed me, never made me feel small. Yeah, I say. I do. And I mean it. 10 years after I sat in that kitchen and handed Simone the key to my safe deposit box, I sit in my greenhouse and I think about justice. Not the legal kind. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind. The kind that happens when you refuse to let someone rewrite your history. The kind that happens when you choose truth over comfort. The kind that happens when you protect yourself without apology. My mother once told me, the best revenge is a life well lived. She was right. But I'd add one thing. The best revenge is knowing who you are and refusing to be smaller for anyone else's comfort. Simone tried to take my inheritance. My mother's gift. The thing that was supposed to set me free. And instead, she gave me something more valuable. Clarity. Clarity about who I was married to. Clarity about what I deserved. Clarity about what I was willing to tolerate and what I wasn't. That safe deposit box wasn't full of evidence. It was full of truth. And truth, it turns out, is the only inheritance that really matters. I water my orchids. They bloom, white petals with purple centers, my mother's colors. Grace Chin would be 79 now, if she'd lived. I think about her every day. Her hands in the soil. Her quiet strength. Her belief that I could be more than I was. I kept my promise, Mom. I say to the flowers. I didn't let anyone make me smaller. The greenhouse is quiet except for the hum of the climate control and the rustle of leaves. It's a good quiet, a peaceful quiet, the quiet of a man who knows his worth. If you're reading this and you're in the middle of your own betrayal, if you're wondering whether you're crazy or paranoid or overreacting, if you're being told that protecting yourself makes you the bad guy, let me tell you something. Trust your gut. Document reality. Protect yourself legally. And don't apologize for refusing to be the villain in someone else's redemption story. You deserve honesty. You deserve respect. You deserve someone who chooses you every day, not just when it's convenient. And if you have to walk away, if you have to fight, if you have to build a case and protect your assets and refuse to be steamrolled, do it. Not out of vengeance, not out of cruelty, out of love for yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only person who has to live with your choices is you. Make choices you can live with. Make choices that let you sleep at night. Make choices that honor the person you want to be. The inheritance my mother left me wasn't just money. It was permission. Permission to value myself. Permission to protect myself. Permission to walk away from people who hurt me without feeling guilty about it. That's the inheritance I'm passing to you. Not money. Not things. Just this. You are worth protecting. Your peace is worth defending. Your truth is worth telling. And anyone who asks you to sacrifice those things for their comfort is asking for too much. Keep your safe deposit box. Fill it with truth. And when someone tries to take what's yours, show them exactly who you are. Quietly. Powerfully. Without apology. That's not revenge. That's self-respect. And that's everything.